We are back, ladies and gentlemen. Finally, after an extended absence, we're back. We're mostly back. We've got producer Gunner back, turning the knob. Yeah, I'm Josh, and now replacing one of our former is Ian.
Ooh.
Ian, how's it going?
Man, you gotta love that welcome. Because
Yeah.
I'm foreign.
No, I don't think the boo was for you. I think it was for the former.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't for you, Ian. I'm sorry to be misleading. That was for Brandon.
Okay. I'm used to the hate being, an English guy in America. So.
Yeah.
Who's hating on you?
I mean, I've done my fair share.
I'm not going to hate on a man for being British. That's kind of like.
Well, so I wouldn't hate on him for being British, but it's just kind of like, when you rub it in somebody's face. It's like, when in Rome, bro, settle down.
That's why I enjoy beating Americans at their own sports on a regular basis. So.
Yeah.
That's the spirit.
So we've got Ian. Ian's been on the show 2 or 3 times with us. He's been a good time. He's always been entertaining, brings good information, and he's going to be replacing Brandon, who did not think that he was able to bring anything creative to the marketplace of ideas.
And let us know, people, in the comments or any kind of posting on Twitter. Let us know. Do you agree with that? If Brandon didn't bring any value to it, or if he should have stayed, we'd like to know.
Well, the thing is, like. It wasn't a question of bringing value. It didn't sound like the bringing anything creative to the marketplace of ideas. That's a direct quote. So let's not misconstrue anything. Brandon didn't feel that he was passionate about it. And if anything, for our listeners, we want the guys or gals that are on this show to be passionate. So with that, we're going to press forward this week. We're going to be covering some waiver wires. We're going to cover the most important, in our eyes, injuries from this week's past games and how they're going to affect you guys moving forward. So without any further ado, let's get into That Just Happened.
That just happened.
It did indeed. It just happened. And let's hit the most relevant injuries there, Ian. You want to start us off there, man? Like, we've got quite a few to get through, so we're going to get on our horse here and get through them.
Yeah. I mean, there's a small one. A little guy up in New York, I believe. Saqoun Barkley, I think he's done for the season. ACL, not great. It's sad to see. Obviously, huge amount of talent. It's a shame. Second season now where he's been impacted in a big way with an injury.
Yeah.
So he was a 101 in a lot of leagues, and it's gonna take some scrambling now to try and salvage a season for a lot of guys. I know you're one of them, Josh.
Yeah, in a dynasty league, I was fortunate enough and played my cards well enough that I was able to. Gunner and I, we co-managed that team, but we were able to draft Saqoun Barkley and we traded for Saqoun Barkley and we drafted Jonathan Taylor in the rookie draft. So luckily, we do have the number one dynasty running back one way or another, no matter which side of the coin you fall on. We've got the RB1 in dynasty. But
I think for the rest of this injury list, I have the rest of them.
True. But another big name that was injured, not season ending, but Christian McCaffrey with an ankle injury. I'm not sure on the details yet on all of that. I'm guessing it's a high
ankle sprain.
Yeah, so he's going to be out. I think I read 4 to 6 weeks. So it's a pretty hefty. But you want to bring him back full speed, especially if you're the Panthers. You're not playing for the playoffs. There's no reason to get your marquee player out there and damage it further. So
yeah, I would lean to the 6, to be honest.
I think Christian McCaffrey's going to push to play, so it'll be interesting to see where he falls. The team's going to want to hold him back, but it's going to be hard to keep a competitor like Christian McCaffrey off the field.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and then another ACL with Cortland Sutton. Started off the season looking shaky with the shoulder, and then
AC joint, right?
ACL.
Yeah.
So he's done for the season as well, and also a direct handcuff for that Drew Lock's going to be out here for 3 to 5 weeks with a shoulder injury. So Denver.
That's tough. That's their young quarterback and young wide receiver there that they looked like they had something cooking at the end of last year when Drew Lock got on the field and started getting his groove on. But, I mean, when he comes back in 3 to 5 weeks, Drew Lock, he'll have to do it without Cortland Sutton. Luckily, they did draft a great wide receiver in Jerry Jeudy.
And KJ Hamler, too.
KJ Hamler as well. And then Hamilton. They still have Hamilton there. So they still have weapons.
Yep.
And Noah Fant, I think, is a huge beneficiary because he's such a big body in the red zone. That's kind of the Cortland Sutton role. So they have bodies there once Drew Lock comes back. And they've got Drew Driscoll, who looked okay this past weekend. He really looked okay if you're a Noah Fant owner. So
if from a Florida fan's perspective, I've seen Jeff Driscoll up close and personal, and it is ugly.
yeah.
And I'm not just talking about his hair color.
Well, he played for Florida.
Yeah. I know that, but we could win with Felipe Franks, but Jeff Driscoll not so much. So that says a lot about him, in my opinion.
Right.
Hey, just to jump in, I don't want to derail the conversation too much, but how much, like, we're seeing a lot of early season, like season-ending injuries. How much of do you think the lockdown played
a good
into that?
deal?
Like,
I think it's a good deal to do with it. Conditioning due to the pandemic, players not able to work out like they typically do. Not that they didn't work out, they came in good shape, but it's different when you're working out at the team facility. You've got the team trainers there helping you and maintain.
It also, I think it also motivates you more when you're in a team environment. Working out on your own, you can do so much, but you're not going to go. I hate to quote 120%, but you're not going to do it.
Well, I mean, unless you're a guy like Austin Eckler, he was able to work out with a smoking hot girlfriend there while he was locked in. She's like a yoga extraordinaire, and they pushed each other pretty hard. I imagine.
I bet.
So Austin Eckler's looking like he's in fine shape,
living the dream.
Yeah, sure, no, he looks good.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
But I definitely think it's played a factor. I mean, you see 100%. The progression from the scrimmages to the preseason to the regular season, and there's a reason why they have that format, and they've done it for a decade. So it's crazy, and it's a shame to see. But
we saw it several years.
We
saw it several years ago when we were on the cusp of an NFL lockout, and there were several, hamstring and soft tissue injuries, and a lot of those too. We don't really think about it, but when your hamstrings are not in good shape, other parts of your body start trying to do more of that work, and that's where the ACL, PCL, MCL come into play. All that's tied together right there. So, it's all related. It's all it's a big mess, and like I said, we had a ton of injuries. And speaking of hamstrings, we had a couple of big guys go down there: Devonta Adams and Will Fuller. Hamstring.
I don't think Will Fuller has any left, does he? I mean, he
goodness gracious.
Every other week.
Yeah, you are 100% correct. That man, his hamstrings are not very elastic. It's like a dried out rubber band.
Yeah, poor guy, because he's super talented when he's on the field. Like, he's electric.
Yeah. He
needs a yoga wife.
Yeah, he does.
He does, yeah. He needs to hook up with Eckler's wife, maybe.
Well, I don't know if I'd recommend that. But Paris Campbell with an MCL, PCL. It looked bad. They said his kneecap was on his thigh there for a second, and so he's lucky he didn't tear his ACL.
Yeah.
I've been there.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. College soccer, and playing, my foot took a turn to the left. My knee didn't turn with me, and it's kind of weird looking at it. But luckily I got away without any ligament damage. But yeah, it's not fun.
Yeah. Oh, that sucks.
Poor guy too, because that's another season in a row, 2 seasons in a row.
Well, he's not going to miss the season, I don't believe, but they don't have a designated time for him to return yet. I imagine he's going to go on that little 3-week IR. Give him a little time to recuperate. But you're right, it does suck. That's 2 years in a row that Paris Campbell's been injured, and he's an immense. So I'd love to see him be able to put it on the field. But
I agree. And then 2 teams, I think, both got hit big time with injuries. I would say. I mean, the Rams lost 2 of their 3 guys, running backs. Akers went down with, I don't know what he got, but he went down. Malcolm Brown, he looks like he's hurt a finger of some description. So now it's the Darrell Henderson show, and I don't know that they got anybody else.
I think Brown's going to be in there, though. He continued to get work through the game even after the finger injury. He even got a couple goal line looks that just didn't pay off for him. I think he's going to be okay. Cam Akers, on the other hand, it would be nice to have some kind of an update.
Yeah, I've not seen anything. I
Me
mean,
either.
nothing. And then the worst one probably with the 49ers. I mean, did they lose half their team or what? Did I just misread
They
that?
got obliterated, man. They got ravaged by the injury bug, especially on the
Mostert,
defensive side of the
Coleman,
ball.
Jimmy G, Mostert, Coleman. Yeah, Nick Bosa. He's probably done for the season.
Solomon Thomas, I believe he's also done for the year.
Yeah. They're, that was a bad week for the 49ers, and they didn't look strong going into it. So terrible.
Right. I mean, I kind of brought it up at the beginning of this year as something that I've learned from last season, and that was the Super Bowl slump being a real deal. It's real. I loaded up on too many Rams last year after they failed in the Super Bowl. I just believed that offense was going to bounce back, and the Super Bowl should have been a cue for us because it did not. And the 49ers look like they're struggling through that same thing, maybe a little bit different way, but they're they're definitely hitting a slump. And so with all those injuries, they'd already lost Richard Sherman for the year. I think you target them now. Like they're depleted of talent. So maybe when you looked at it on the schedule at the beginning of the year and you're thinking it's a bad matchup for your skill position players. I don't think so now. I think maybe it's a little bit different.
Oh, for sure.
So
Plus, they're not going to maintain drives on offense either. I mean, they've got no receivers. Kittle's like got a knee injury that he's going to push through. They got Nick Mullins under center again. I mean, I don't hate him, but he's not the guy.
Yeah,
so they're going to be.
I don't believe Jimmy G's
fast.
the guy either, but I think that you're right. Like Nick Mullen is less of a talent than Jimmy G is, but yeah, I mean they're banged up, and we're going to target that matchup, like we say. And even when you're streaming your fantasy defense, you may snag up the one that's playing the 49ers now. So they're already banged up at the receiving core, like you said, and they've also lost their running back. Sorry, I'm losing this.
Mostert's out. Coleman's out.
Mostert and Coleman, yeah. So
they traded Breida. They're down to McKinnon, and then they're rookies. So.
And if McKinnon has taught us anything, it's just to hold on just a second. He'll be out as well. So,
for sure.
So no offense to McKinnon, wish him all the best as far as his health goes. But playing in that system, he's going to have trouble keeping his knees intact.
Mm-hmm.
Zach, pretty much. But yeah, go ahead.
No, I couldn't agree more. That's all I was saying. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Well, let's roll on. Let's cover some drops here for the waivers this week. Obviously, we want to drop Saqoun. We know it hurts. He was your first, second, maybe third overall pick in your draft, and you were elated to have him. And now you have to drop him. You have to move on. It is what it is. He's owned everywhere, so we know you're out there. Just cut bait. And the reason we're telling you drops is because we're going to cover the ads in a minute, but it's just sometimes it's hard to look at your roster and know who's a guy that I can drop to make this ad. I have to do it, and so we want to cover that because a lot of shows don't. But Paris Campbell, 14% owned, and all these percentages, we couldn't find a lot of information out there on where their percentage owned would be, and so we took these from NFL.com. We imagine it's going to be pretty standard across all platforms. But yeah, Paris Campbell is 14% owned, and we don't really have a stipulated time, like we said, on when he's coming back. So go ahead and just cut bait with him and move along, shuffle along, and make your ad.
Yeah.
Drew Lock, if you got him, 10.2%. Maybe you were just waiting on that breakout. Can't wait any longer. Boom, he's gone. Cut bait. Now, Sammy Watkins is owned in a lot of places, 92% owned. But
I got him.
Yeah, you do. But he took a little hit to the noggin. It was a pretty bad hit. Pretty bad hit. He got hit.
A few snaps.
Yeah. He got hit in the back of the head on his first catch of the day in the fourth quarter. Got hit in the back of the old knot and was concussed pretty clearly. He could barely stand. So I imagine he's in. I don't have confirmation on this, but I imagine that he's in concussion protocol and he is likely to stay there. So if you need to make an ad and that's the guy at the end of your roster, you can probably cut bait with him if you don't have anybody else to drop. And Tom Brady is going to be a guy. He's 97% owned. When I saw that, I could not believe it. 97% owned.
I mean, he is the GOAT, and look at the weapons around him. So you just got to think, even in a dink and dunk offense, but they've been running the ball a lot more than maybe people considered.
Well, I mean, I considered
They
it.
have.
I don't know if you remember in the offseason, I said like it's setting up for a real disappointment in the eyes of fantasy owners in Tampa Bay. Like all these weapons, but they kept on bringing in more aged players like LaShawn McCoy, Tom Brady. I mean, he's 97% owned. He's also 97 years old. So it felt like they were. It felt like they were just setting themselves up for a real disappointment. And Tom Brady is not executing the Arians offense the way that it's typically been done in the past. And, man, I miss Jameis Winston over there.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm a Patriots fan, have been for a long time, and I've been watching Brady his whole career, and it's great to win, but he's not fun to watch. Winston's fun to watch because he's going to throw 500 yards, 6 TDs, and 3 picks. I mean, that's fun.
They played the Panthers this week, who have no one on defense to speak of. And he had, depending on your scoring format, we played 6-point touchdowns in my league record. He had 11 points.
Mm-hmm.
That's it's not too good. So
yeah. That was the Leonard Fournette show.
Yeah. Go Leonard Fournette. I'm happy to see it for him. I thought he had a little bit more to offer than what Jacksonville had him portray. And so, yeah. And then last but not least, Breshad Perriman. I believe it was a hamstring injury, 15.4% owned. Cut bait. Look, he plays on the Jets anyway. Just get real. Move along. He's been gased.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. One of the worst franchises in the league right now, mainly because of their coach. So.
Yeah, he's terrible.
He's awful. I just hope he goes to the Bills next and just does the AFC East and does us all a favor. It's a guaranteed 2 wins for the Patriots. So.
Well, if he goes to the Bills to go along with Stephon Diggs and John Brown, good luck covering the end zone, man. Like you can only play so many people on defense, and Josh Allen is a cannon.
No, I'm talking about Gage. I want him to ruin their franchise too.
No, get that out of here.
Yeah, so I got a couple drops too. First one, it hurts me because I'm obviously a Patriots fan. Gronkowski. I mean,
boom,
he just
cut
looks
him.
He looks like he's retired. He still looks like he's retired. He didn't even get a target yet this week, so he's like 90% owned almost. There's better tight ends out there on waivers. Obviously, Cortland Sutton. It's horrible because he had been an early round pick, but he's done, so he needs to go.
Yep.
Jimmy G as well. I would say he's 60% owned, which is high anyways, but now he's out. Like there's, I would rather roster Teddy Bridgewater or somebody like that. Somebody that's going to be actually throwing the ball, playing from behind, or a Gardner Minshew, or even a
Minshew. If he's available, Minshew's a good ad. Yeah.
Ryan Tannehill as well. Like people just sleep on him because they think that Derrick Henry is all that Tennessee are about, but he's actually slinging the rock and he has done since he's been there. So he's a good ad. Sony Michel, again, Patriots, but we're not running the ball with anybody but Cam. So until Damian Harris comes back, and I want to see what he does, but the only running back I'd roster is James White when he comes back. Obviously, terrible news for his family.
Oh yeah, it's terrible about his dad and his mother being in critical condition. So
yeah, so but I would, he's still a valuable weapon in the Patriots offense when he plays. And then my last one is Darrel Williams for the Chiefs. He looked like he got hurt this weekend, and they seem to be rolling with Edwards-Helaire pretty regular. So I think that committee that they were talking about at the start of the season is very much a one-man show right now. So those are my drops. And I think there's definitely better players in every position there that you could pick up on waivers. So
yeah, and I know you said with Sony. I know you said with Sony Michel about the Patriots and old buddy coming back. Damian Harris. There we go. Damian Harris. So when he comes back, man, I'm just all the way out. Like you said, they're running the ball with Cam. He's getting the goal line work, and he will. That's not changing. No matter who comes in at the running back position, he's good. He's the goal line back, and it was the problem in Carolina when we had Jonathan Stewart there. You couldn't really trust him to get the goal line work, and so he was just kind of meh for fantasy. And it's going to be that way as long as Cam is in the league, wherever he plays. Like, the running backs lose so much value. So I'm
I
with
don't
you. Like,
disagree.
maybe in a pinch you can throw in James White in a PPR league, but
They were
kind of
super high on Harris coming out of the camp though, so I'm kind of relying on that as far as his value. I think that the Michel they were out on going into the season, and they kind of got their hand forced with Harris, hurting his hand. So I just want to see, right now you can stash him on IR, so I'd rather stash him and see, and then cut him the week after or 2 weeks after and see what happens. But
Yeah.
I think he has value potentially.
Yeah, I think the potential. I won't argue that the potential is there, but I think we both know the upside has to be capped because Cam's taking that goal line work. Like, don't you agree?
Sure. Yeah, but we'll see after Sunday night, because we got a little predictable there at the end, which cost us the game. Great game, best team won, but obviously that was a very scripted play. It was
Let's be honest. If Seattle calls that game right, you don't even get that opportunity. They called the game very poorly at the end.
That's Pete Carroll against Bill Belichick every single time. So
yeah, man. And the thing is, like, through 2 weeks, I've been surprised in Pete Carroll. It almost cost him the game this week. I will look for Russell Wilson's pass attempts to maybe drop down a little bit. You may see a little more Chris Carson coming up in the next couple weeks. That's just my opinion.
I hope not.
We'll see what happens, but I know a lot of people want to see it, but I mean, traditionally we haven't, and I think Pete Carroll's going to get back to that because he wants to win games. And I think when they sit down in the film room, they're going to see they almost lost that game.
Yeah, we missed a field goal and a 2-point conversion, so that had taken it to overtime, and
yep,
we were rolling pretty tight there, so I think we'd have won it in overtime, but.
Yeah. Let's roll on into some waiver ads. This is why we're here this week, to help people find the value, the goodies that they need to win their week this week, and hopefully do something a little bit more moving on, into the season. So we know we've got a lot of injuries, like we've already talked about. So for me, the first player I want to talk about is Corey Davis. I went ahead and picked him up last week in my league of record because I just felt like this was before the A.J. Brown injury, but it felt like he's kind of putting it together. He's a first-round talent, top 10 pick previously, and if he's put it together on that team, like you said, Ryan Tannehill's throwing the rock around. It's a very narrow target tree there. You have Antonio Brown. I'm sorry, not Antonio Brown. AJ Brown. I was close there. Anyways, a little bit late. I get a little bit of an early start, but AJ Brown, you got Corey Davis, you have Jonnu Smith. That's pretty much the target tree there in Tennessee. So if they're going to throw the ball 30 plus times, you're going to get 10 targets out of Corey Davis. And if he's put it together and he's catching the ball, squeezing the football in traffic, like he's been doing in the end zone in particular, he scored again this week. That's 3, right, over the last 2?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah. 3. It might have been 2. I don't know. 2 or 3 touchdowns over 2 weeks. It's pretty good touchdown percentage, and 9+ targets each week. So for me, 24.5% owned. Go get him if you've got a guy like Cortland Sutton that went down, and you need to go get a wide receiver, or if you've got Thomas
is going to be out for a couple weeks.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, Michael Thomas is a good example actually. So go get that guy. He's going to get some targets. Who do you have? Who's your favorite there, Ian?
Favorite's a tough one. I'm going to probably, it's not confirmed yet, but I think that's why it's a good target. Devonta Freeman obviously he's reported he's visiting the Giants by Ian Rappaport early this morning. He's going to slot in there. I don't rate Wayne Gorman at all, and I don't think Dion Lewis can carry the load. So I think Devonta Freeman's a good option there. I think a lot of people are going to wait and see if he signs. I think you could get him cheap this week. And if he doesn't sign, no big deal. Cut him, and then you move on. But I think if he he does sign, he's not going to be Saquon Barkley, but he could be. If he's 70% of Saquon Barkley, he's going to be RB, good flex or an RB2 maybe.
Here's the thing: if he could just be 70% of what Devonta Freeman was 2 or 3 years ago in Atlanta, then you have a good RB2. He's not going to. I don't even want to put him in the same conversation as Saquon. The problem is the Giants, man. That's the problem for me with the whole situation. The offensive line is atrocious. So he's gonna have to show that he's still got the juice to be able to do it behind that offensive line and in that offensive scheme. But like you said, he's going to be cheap this week. So what would you put in on Fab for Devonta Freeman?
On Fab,
just a percentage.
Obviously, depends on your roster. It depends on your roster, but I'd probably put it like somewhere at like 15%, just because I think you'll end up overpaying otherwise, and you'll regret it if he doesn't sign.
So around 10%.
Yeah, 10 to 15, depending on how much you have and your roster makeup. If you're desperate for running back, then I would lean to 15.
So if you're the Saquon Barkley owner, maybe you put 15%.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, that's fair. And for me, I didn't really hit on it, but Corey Davis, I'm kind of in the same boat, 10 to 15%, unless you're really needy at wide receiver. The only reason I wouldn't do more is because wide receivers are a little bit more accessible on your waiver wires. There's more of a thick pool of them there. So
that's another reason why I'm kind of leaning to rolling the dice on him, because the running back pool of talent this season is really slim.
Yeah,
it's super thin, and so I'd rather get a guy I know is going to be if he gets the job, is going to be the main guy than try and navigate one of these committees somewhere else.
Yeah, that's a good point. And like we were saying, with the wide receiver pool being a little bit more accessible there, I've got another one, Russell Gage. Man, they're actually letting him throw the ball some in a wildcat formation. He's getting to run the ball. Matt Ryan loves throwing the ball in the red zone, deep, short, everywhere. So he's 18.9% owned on leagues on NFL.com fantasy site there, and he's just good, man. He's good. He's in a pass-happy offense. They throw the ball 40-plus times, it seems like, every single game. It's been fun to watch Matt Ryan just kind of sling the rock around. I wish he would get it a little bit more to Julio Jones in the end zone, just to let his fantasy owners have their sanity.
Nah, keep throwing it to Ridley. I'm happy with that. I got Ridley in a couple leagues. So keep throwing it to him.
That touchdown percentage is going to come down eventually. But
as long next season, that's fine. Just not this season.
So for me, Russell Gage, kind of the same thing, 5 to 10%, I think, just because, like we talked about with Corey Davis, the tree being real narrow, there's a lot more options in Atlanta. So
there is.
Yep.
He's basically Mohamed Sue Jr. Kind of like he's very serviceable, especially as a week, bye week fill-in or a flex play potentially if you're a little thin at that position.
So I think 7% is probably where I put him. If you're on a $100 budget, drop $7 on him and see if you get him. I think he's worth that.
What happened? Yeah. So I'll throw on to a wide receiver here in Jacksonville. Obviously, we've talked about Minshew throwing it around a lot this season so far. So Keelan Cole has been the surprise benefactor of a lot of those targets. So, obviously Chark's been fine, but Keelan Cole's been like a sneaky good, really. He's been double digits both weeks in half-point PPR. He's owned in less than half a percent of leagues. So
he's looked for him in the red zone a lot, I've noticed.
Yeah, 2 touchdowns in 2 games and decent amount of yards. So I think he's worth 5 to 7%, and just see if it continues. Minshew, last season he kind of found his guys and just kept targeting them. So if he's found like a groove with Keelan, then why not? Like, give it a go.
I think you can probably get him too for 3 or 4%. I know you said 5 to 7, but man, he's got that Jacksonville stink on him, and I think you can get him a little bit cheaper than that.
That's true. But that's another reason I kind of like him, because they're going to be behind every
Absolutely.
week.
Absolutely. I'm not. I like that. I like that pick. I just think you can get him cheap because, like we said, he's Jacksonville. Ugh.
And I actually picked him up on Wednesday in a couple leagues. So just in a couple of deeper leagues, just because I'm like, well, let's see what happens. So
yeah. So I got a couple more wide receivers I'm gonna throw in here together. Green Bay's Allen Lazard and Marques Valdes-Scantling. Lazard is 18.1% owned and 9.5 for Valdes-Scantling. So I actually prefer MVS. I know most people love Lazard, but I think MVS is a better deep threat. And if I'm picking up a guy on the waivers, I'd rather have the bang, like the big play potential. Uh,
Mm.
and Alan Lazard just seems more like a possession type guy. Uh,
Yeah.
it'll it'll be interesting to see what happens with Devonta Adams if he misses a game with his hamstring. Which guy really steps up? I mean, it may be Lazard, but I think that teams may key on him more so than MBS.
Well, and one thing to mention, we missed out in the injury list. Equinemius St. Brown has been placed on IR again, so they're
Yep.
down to 3 guys again. They didn't add anybody in the off season, either in free agency or in the draft. So
I mean, if only it would have
they're
been
very-
a really good draft class of wide receivers to pick from,
Yeah, I mean, I can't even think of a good one that came out this year. So.
I mean, at least they did, they drafted a running back. So
Yeah, and then they drafted like 7 defensive players that can't hold people out of the end zone. So whatever. I mean,
and a quarterback.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, let's piss off our franchise player. That's a good idea.
Yeah, that was a fun one. Good job, guys, up there in Green Bay, knocking it out of the park.
Another low-owned guy for me, and this is going to be a temporary play. I think Mike Davis for Carolina now that C-Mac's out for 6 weeks, potentially a little bit longer. He looked pretty good at the end of the game, especially in the passing down. So I think he's a good ad for anybody that needs a running back or a C-Mac owner.
Well, we don't have this guy on the list. You brought up Mike Davis, and I just wanted to kind of sneak it in there because I know you're going to like it. But Curtis Samuel is a sneaky little play here because of C-Mac being out. I think they may get Curtis Samuel some touches out of the backfield. They did that with him in Ohio State, and I think it's got a real potential to happen.
Yeah, maybe. And
I think he's owned, but I think you can go get him pretty cheap. From
a lot of people actually, I think you'll find a lot of people dropped him after week 1 because
and I don't blame them.
Anonymous. Yeah, no, me neither. But but yeah, and I like that. If they do use him in the backfield, that means DJ Moore is going to get a lot more targets. He's my guy.
Absolutely, man. DJ Moore looked good in the fourth quarter of this game, and I'm hoping that Teddy Bridgewater was like, "Oh yeah, I've got that guy." And geez, man, it was kind of frustrating to watch him. Week 1, he was targeting Robbie Anderson so much, and Anderson's kind of a one-trick show, home run hitter, and DJ Moore's a complete wide receiver 1. So it was good to see, in the fourth quarter, he leaned on Moore, and I hope he takes that moving forward. But we can. Yeah. This isn't the Carolina Panthers offensive breakdown show. So go ahead and finish what you were saying about Mike Davis. What do you think there on the money?
I think he's going to be more expensive because he's an obvious number 2 fill-in for C-Mac. So I think, and for a 6-week fill-in, again, it's roster dependent. If you're desperate running back, I think he's going to cost you 20%. Honestly, to guarantee him. I just think that's what some people are going to throw silly money at him just because of the situation.
You willing to pay that?
No, I actually picked him up last week. Or no, I picked him up in the offseason when he got the number 2 job, so I'm not paying anything for him. But
in redraft,
no, I wouldn't pay 20
to pay that for him.
Absolutely not. No.
Yeah, I think that there's a chance Bonifant gets a bit different role. I think they had Mike Davis as the number. They cut him. They cut Bonifant. I thought he was still on the roster in a practice role.
Maybe they picked him back up on the practice squad, but yeah, he was cut from the 53, so maybe. But they did cut him. But yeah, Mike Davis looked good, and I think that's going to bump his value up.
And I liked Mike Davis when he was in Chicago. I think he's a good player, but I just think there's going to be a little bit different scenario than what we're expecting. Maybe even a timeshare. I think the reason that C-Mac got all the work is because he is C-Mac. So
sure, no, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm a little bit wary these days. Every year it seems like we have this player that goes down, and we all rush out and spend our fab to get the guy, and then it ends up not being the guy. And so
yeah.
That's why I paid a little bit last week for Nyheim Hines. I got kicked in the balls for that one this week, but it seemed like a guaranteed role because of the situation there, where he was the receiving back, Phillip Rivers checked down, and then he gets 1 touch this week. So cautionary tale.
I'd probably throw $10 on Mike Davis and see if it lands. I wouldn't spend more, but I can see him going for more. People overpay him.
Yeah, and I think I'm kind of in the same boat. I think it's worth it for Curtis Samuel if he's available. I think nobody's going to be on him, and I think you throw $7, $8, $9 at him, and if he hits, wow, you you hit big because he's a playmaker with the ball in his hands, and if they get it to him out of the backfield, it's going to be good.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, and I've got Benny Snell, 37.9% owned. I think he's going to get dropped a lot this week after James Conner came back and had a big game. But I think it's important to remember that that's James Conner, and he's going to get hurt. So hang on to Benny Snell if you've got him. And if you haven't got him, go get him. He's going to be cheaper this week than he was last week. And you should capitalize on that. I think, you throw $10 at Benny Snell, make sure you get him, and you're probably going to feel a little bit silly when nobody else bids on him. But that's okay because they're going to feel silly in 3 weeks when he's the RB1 in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I agree. I like that take. I had him and I traded him, but I got a good deal, I thought. So I didn't need him because I have every backup in the league in our dynasty league. So.
Benny Snell is super talented, man. Loved him in Kentucky.
Yeah, but I like that. I do like that take. I think you're going to get him for almost nothing this week. A couple bucks maybe.
Yep.
My final guy is a little bit of an out there one, but Mo Alie-Cox for your
Oh, no, buddy. That's not out there. Oh, no. I added him last week in our Dynasty League. You remember?
I do.
I've had him in my other Dynasty League for 3 years. I love Mo Alie-Cox. That man he's a man. And he blew up last week, and I think he's our new tight end, man. Like, I think when maybe Burton comes back, we're going to need him out wide. But I think Mo Alie-Cox is going to be an inline tight end. He's huge. I don't want to steal your take here, so go ahead. But you hit my Colts, so I jumped in there.
Yeah, absolutely. That's your right. So no, I think he's got a lot of talent. Obviously, Doyle was out for I'm not sure how long, but he's towards the end of his career anyway. So he's been great, but he's towards the end, I think. And obviously now that the Campbell's out for the season. And
I don't think he's going to be out for the season.
Yeah, for a long period of time, but just enough time for Mo to establish himself in the offense, get the trust of Rivers.
His name
Rivers
is Mo.
That's what I said.
His name is Cox.
Yeah, Mo and Cox, and he's got Alie in there. So I mean, he's got to be great.
Rivers has a history of targeting the tight end, obviously with Hunter Henry. So
not only that. But former basketball players, look at Antonio Gates, former basketball player, Mo Alie-Cox, former college basketball player. So lots to hit on there. Well, it's exciting.
Yeah,
and who doesn't need a tight end? You've got 4, maybe 5 owners in your league that don't need a tight end. Everybody else, you may think you don't need one. You need a tight end. So try to hit on one. Try to get that guy. A few years ago or 2 years ago, it was the other tight end from Indianapolis that's now in Pittsburgh, and
Ebron.
There we go. And it could be Mo Alie-Cox this year. So don't miss the boat. He's going to be cheap. They're going to think it's a flash in the pan.
A couple bucks.
Couple bucks, and you could hit the lottery. Go do it.
Yeah, that's my last pickup guy. I think he's got potential to be high payout. So.
Yeah, and like you said, just a couple bucks. One thing I will say is if any of these guys really hit a need for you, or you just really want them, you think that they're the next big thing, just because we say $5, $6, $7, it's your fab money. Go get them. Pay up whatever you think they're worth. Everybody is so scared to spend their fab, but at the end of the day, it's going to be there at the end of the year. You can't take it with you. Save enough that you can make your streaming plays at quarterback and tight end and defense, just $30, $40, and get your guy when they come up, because you don't know what's going to happen. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
unless you're in a league that you use real money for your fab dollars, then you're SOL.
Yeah, and then if you're in my league and we're spending real money, just make sure you pay up for Saqoun Barkley when he hits your waivers this weekend. Just go ahead and throw it all in there, $100. So, yeah, it's fun talking some waivers. Glad to have the band back together. Just like any good band, you eventually have to replace people. So,
yeah, we dropped our Pete Best and we picked up Ringo Starr, so it's all right.
That's right.
I'm glad you said Ringo, not John Lennon. Not a big John Lennon fan.
Really?
Hey,
fair enough.
Miserable, I mean.
He was a jerk.
Yeah. Yeah. So we dropped John Lennon. No, I'm just kidding. So, so yeah, if you've got any questions out there, we're still at non-neutral zone at gmail.com. You can drop those for us. We can answer those on the show. Our Twitter handle is still at non-neutral zone 1. We can't get that obidi to come off of the non-neutral zone handle. So, so yeah.
How many followers are we up to now? I haven't checked.
We're right at 500.
Oh,
yeah, we
that's good.
got about 500 followers, which is it's real good considering, we jumped up around 15 without doing a show for a few weeks. So,
Yeah, that's cool.
yeah, I don't know what that says for the show, but hopefully now we've got a little bit more passion from some guys bringing some creative ideas to the marketplace. And so, yeah.
I have a creative idea. I want to run by you guys.
What you got, PG?
Oh, okay. So earlier when you guys were talking, and you're talking about drops and ads, and you talked about Mo Alie-Cox, and Josh, you said I love me some Mo Alie-Cox. I'm thinking about editing out where you said Mo
Mo Cox.
So that's a creative idea I had.
Just edit out the Mo part and just say Alie-Cox, because I don't know if you have Alleys over here, but we have Alleys in England, and that seems
like you're out in the alley. I love Alie-Cox. That's funny. Yeah, I could have some fun with that. So that's a creative idea I'm bringing to the marketplace.
Yeah. For the audience too, we're recording this on Monday evening. We're getting ready to watch some Monday Night Football. I've got a pretty big game. Brandon's wife, Katie, she's down several points in our league of record, but she has Kamara and she has Emmanuel Sanders. So we're going to find out if she's got me down or if I'm going to pull out the win. I hope I do. I'm 0-1, second highest scoring team last week. Brandon to the highest scoring team. So it happens. Yeah, I got bucked off the Bronco. Let's get back on.
There you go.
Gunner, man, glad to have your voice back on the show.
Yeah, welcome back.
Ian, glad to have you on here full time, man. I'm excited to see where we go forward. Guys, thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks for listening. Remember to subscribe wherever you listen and don't fall into the neutral zone.